Here in the next match of the Master of Faster tournament, the Tormentor of Spirits, and, of course, a Dark Signer, Devack will engage in a battle of the beasts against Team Unicorn's leader, Captain John! Let's not waste another second and dive into these duelists' decks. Devack plays an ape-themed deck that wants to fill the graveyard so that the closed forest field spell will boost all of his monsters' attack. The entire rest of his deck is generic beast support, meaning the end-all be-all is to beat your opponent in battle. His Earthbound Immortal is by far the best monster in his deck, as on top of all the protections and advantages the others get, Kosiu can sacrifice another monster to protect itself from battle. This not only feeds the closed forest, but halves the opponent's life points, which is truly terrifying. His side deck runs Ayer's Rock Sunrise to cripple his opponent's monsters, capitalizing on the graveyard-centric playstyle, where card and hand destruction not only stack your grave and speed up your deck, but they disrupt your opponent's hand as well. While this is one of the simplest decks we've seen, maybe simple is better. Moving on to his opponent. John also plays a beast deck, but ironically he takes the opposite approach. His monsters are weaker, and instead of stacking his grave, his goal is to stuff the opponent's grave by milling their cards and winning via deck out. Some of the most threatening cards are Soul Levy, milling 3 every time your opponent special summons, Destruction Trigger, milling 5 if your monster is destroyed by an effect, and Battlefield Tragedy, which can stack a 5-card mill to an attacking player and search other copies of itself. A much more complicated deck than its opponent, these two will duke it out to be crowned King of the Beasts. Ready, set, duel!
The Battle of the Beasts begins, and we'll see John taking the first turn of this duel, and he will do the infamous T-set and pass, before going over to Devack's turn with the Closed Forest field spell activating immediately. With Closed Forest on the field, all beast monsters that Devack controls gain 100 attack for every monster that is in his graveyard. Also, field spells cannot be activated, and even if this card leaves the field, a new field spell still cannot be activated during that same turn. That's going to be met in response with the Soul Levy Continuous Trap on Jean's side of the field. He can only control one of these because of how powerful it is, but every time that Devack special summons a monster, he has to mill the top 3 cards of his deck. He's gonna normal summon, though, the Enraged Battleox, a 1700 attack beast who allows all beasts, beast warriors, and wing beasts on Devack's side of the field to inflict piercing damage. Moving into battle, he's going to swing into and destroy the Bicorn Rayum for 100 points of damage before setting a card of his own in the back row and passing it back to Jean, who T-sets once more, afraid of absolutely nothing. Devack's gonna do something similar, setting a monster face down before swinging with the Battleox again, and this will be met with the Tricolor Illusion Continuous Trap card on Jean's side. While Tricolor Illusion is on the field, monsters that Devack controls can no longer attack. Also, Devack can send the top card of the deck to the graveyard to attempt to destroy Tricolor Illusion. Tricolor Illusion, though, is destroyed. For Jean's turn, he's gonna draw and activate the Ayer's Rock Sunrise, reviving a beast from the graveyard, and all monsters that are face up on Devack's side of the field will lose 200 per beast, plant, and wing beast currently in Jean's graveyard. He doesn't need the attack drop though, because Bicorn Rayum is a level 4 tuner, so he'll then flip over the Phantom Beast Crosswing and tune it to synchro summon the Lightning Tricorn, 2800 attack points. And if it gets destroyed by battle, then Jean can special summon a Thunder Unicorn or a Voltic Bicorn from the extra deck to take its spot. Just now you also saw the Bicorn Rayum activate its effect. Since it went to the graveyard for a synchro summon, Devack lost the top 2 cards of his deck. And Jean will then normal summon the Delta Flyer tuner monster before entering battle, using the Tricorn to beat over the Enraged Battleox for some damage, and then successfully destroying the face-down Dark Tuner monster that Devack had planned to use later on. No longer though. But for his turn, he's gonna normal summon the Ape Magician monster, who is simultaneously treated as a spellcaster monster. And once per turn, while it's face-up and attack with its 800 attack points, Devack can discard 1 card to target a face-up monster that Jean controls and take control of it, but he's not allowed to change the battle position of the monster he steals. He will be taking the Lightning Tricorn for himself, and also using the Axe of Despair to boost the attack of a monster by 1,000. So, with the combination of the effect of the Closed Forest, Ape Magician is now at 2,000 attack, and Lightning Tricorn at 3,000 attack. So they swing over the Delta Fly and attack directly, leaving Jean nearly at half of his life already. Devack ends his mighty turn, and Jean will banish a spell card in his hand to summon the Monoceros monster in defense with 1,000 defense, and ends his turn at that as he has no other cards in his hand. But for Devack's turn, he gets to simply pitch another card to activate Ape Magician and clear that monster off of the field, giving him room to attack directly for game. Devack easily snatching this first round. Round 2, and we see that Jean is not afraid and he chooses to go first, sacrificing that potentially powerful and clutch extra card that he could have drawn. And it seems like he might have made the wrong decision here because he only sets 2 and passes. No monsters on his field. But, much to our surprise, Devack does something similar, passing with no monsters on his side of the field either. He only has 1 card set in his back row too, so maybe Jean can clear it. He sets another card before activating the Battlefield Tragedy, a destructive continuous spell to have. During Jean's second main phase, if no monsters battled each other this turn, he can discard a card from his hand to set another Battlefield Tragedy from the deck. Also, during the end phase, if any monsters battled each other, the turn player loses 5 cards from the top of the deck. And while he has summoned the Bicorn Rayum, since Devack has no monsters, Jean has the opportunity to deal damage without triggering the Battlefield Tragedy's mill, dumping his own cards. And he successfully does so, getting rid of 800 life points and ending his turn. And Devack once more has no cards he can play. Rayum then gets to attack again directly and end his turn once more. If you're curious though, while Jean does have cards that he can discard, A, we have to consider that they might not be cards he's willing to get rid of, and B, he has 4 cards in his spell and trap card zone. So it might not be a wise decision to block that final space and lock yourself into only using what's already on your field for future plays. Devack bricking like crazy, still not a single monster on his side of the field on the 7th turn of the duel, and since his hand has 7 cards, he has to discard the Behemoth. Jean then draws and T-sets before attacking for, what is this, a 3rd or 4th time with the Rayum? Leaving Devack at 5,600, forcing him to use the mighty Smashing Ground spell card to destroy the strongest defense-having monster on Jean's side of the field, finally getting rid of the Rayum that was constantly poking him. But once more, on turn number 9, no monsters to defend himself with. Jean will normal summon the Rhinotaurus, who can replace the Rayum with 1,800 attack points, swinging directly and accelerating the pace at which this game will traverse. Devack ends his turn again, discarding the DNA Transplant. He has no moves that he can make, and Jean is still stacking up monsters onto the field. Mind Mole attacking directly, Rhinotaurus attacking directly, and Devack is now at 1,000 life points before he finally plays a card. He ditches a card in his hand to special summon the Egotistical Ape, a level 5 tuner monster with 1,200 attack summoned in attack mode. Egotistical Ape can either increase or decrease the level of itself by the level of the beast monster that was sent to the graveyard, which was the level 7 Ancient Crimson Ape, and he will do so, increasing his level before just sacrificing it to summon the Ape Fighter with 1,900. Now up to 2,200 because Devack then activates the Closed Forest field spell. I'm not sure what the purpose was of using the effective Egotistical Ape, but it was incredibly clever using it as fodder to get an actual body onto the field. He can now do some damage, swinging into the Rhinotaurus, attempting to destroy the biggest monster on Jean's side of the field. This will get met with the Return Damage Trap card. If Jean was going to be taking battle damage, the battle damage gets cancelled and inflicted back to Devack. So now he'll be the one taking 400 points of damage, putting him well below the safety line at 600 life points left. The effect of Ape Fighter is going to trigger though. Since it destroyed a monster in battle, it'll gain 400 attack permanently. And if it ever doesn't attack, its attack drops back down to its original during the end phase. So now it's sitting at a much more frightening 2600. But since 2 monsters battle this turn, and it's Devack's turn, Battlefield Tragedy will activate, causing him to lose 5 cards from the top of his deck, leaving him with 27 cards left, nearly half of what he has to work with at the beginning. Jean doesn't need to play too much of anything right now, so he'll simply set a card and pass it back. Devack will now activate the trap card Roaring Earth, a continuous trap. When a beast monster attacks a defense position monster now, it can do piercing battle damage. And if it does using the effect of Roaring Earth, Devack can target a face-up monster on Jean's side of the field and drop its attack and defense permanently by 500, even if Roaring Earth leaves the field. So now with 3000 attack because of the Mill of Battlefield Tragedy, he will pierce through the Mind Mole for some damage. Mind Mole, though, can protect itself from being destroyed by battle once per turn, every single turn. So it will stick around this time, but it sticking around isn't necessarily a benefit because now Roaring Earth has a target, so the Mind Mole is weakened. Jean will have to find a way to try to get it off the field before Devack gets more monsters out on his side. For now, though, Battlefield Tragedy activates yet again, leaving him with 21 cards in his deck. And Jean's really trying to turbo this mill strategy by finally flipping over his face-down monster, the Morphing Jar! Morphing Jar throws away every card in both players' hands and forces them to draw 5 brand new cards. So while Jean only loses 2, Devack not only loses all 4 cards, one of which was an Earthbound Immortal monster, but he's forced to lose 5 more from the deck, putting him at 16 now. And using the Bicorn Rayum once more, it tunes the Mind Mole, finally getting that off of the field so that Jean can summon the level 7 Voltic Bicorn with 25 in attack mode. And while it cannot match the Ape Fighter whatsoever, when Voltic Bicorn gets destroyed by any means, both players lose 7 cards from the top of their deck. And sitting at 6,200, Jean can definitely afford the 1,000 difference to his life points for the cost of sending half of Devack's deck to the grave. Also, Bicorn Rayum has the effect to pitch 2 cards off of the top of the deck now since it was used for a Synchro Summon, and we also see the Mind Mole get used for the Synchro, allowing Jean to draw an additional card. So he has drawn 6 cards this turn, and he's going to simply pass there, being not too reckless, swinging in immediately, potentially opening him up for game in the battle phase of Devack's turn. Devack is afraid of nothing, though, as he drew the Ape Magician thanks to the Morphing Jar. So he summons that, pitches a card, and steals the Voltic Bicorn so that its deadly effect can no longer be used against him. And thanks to Closed Forest and all of the milling, he now has 3,700 on Devack's side of the field. So he smashes the Morphing Jar and attacks directly, being met with the Damage Lance, though, on Jean's side of the field, allowing him to do 1,000 points of damage to Devack, ending this duel. For the finale between Devack and Jean to see who will finally be crowned the King of the Beasts, Devack has chosen to go first, and he ditches the Ape Fighter from his hand to special summon the Egotistical Ape and activates the Closed Forest Field spell so that his Egotistical Ape will gain an extra 100 attack points. But that's not what the Ape Fighter is going to be for, as he activates the Ayers Rock Sunrise to revive it from the graveyard so that he can sacrifice them both for the Earthbound Immortal Kusilu. And he'll end his turn there with a 3,000 attack god. For Jean's turn, since he has no monsters on his field, he can activate the spell Obedience School to special summon 3 level 2 or lower beast monsters with different names from the deck, but their effects are negated, and during the end phase, they all get destroyed. So he'll summon the Uni-Horned Familiar, the Hop Ear Squadron, and the Nimble Momonga, all in defense, 2 of which are level 2 tuners. He'll also normal summon the Rescue Cat and activate its effect sacrificing itself to special summon 2 level 3 or lower beasts from the deck, who also get destroyed during the end phase. He brings out X-Saber Airbellum and the Mind Mole in defense mode as well, and he will tune the Mind Mole with the Unicorn Familiar for the final synchro we have yet to see, the Thunder Unicorn, level 5 with 2200 attack points. And it's going to use its effect. For every monster on Jean's side of the field except for itself, it can reduce the attack of a monster on Devack's side of the field by 500 permanently. And it also says that Unicorn will be the only one who is allowed to attack during that turn that its effect is activated. Using this ability and the Mind Mole to draw a card, Jean has now minimized Kusiyu's attack down to a mere 1500 before setting a horrifying amount of cards in the back row, followed with a Battlefield Tragedy, and enters the battle phase to attack directly for 2200 before all of the other beasts on his field are destroyed. He'll also, during the standby phase of Devack's turn, activate the Tricolor Illusion. So during Devack's standby or end phase, whichever comes first, Jean can use this trap card in order to reveal the top card of Devack's deck and activate an effect based off of whether it's a monster, spell, or trap card. Since the Prime Mineral Kong Great was revealed, a monster card, he gets to keep it, but he puts the other card in his hand back on top of the deck. So he has no more playable cards. He'll swing directly with Kusiyu for 1500, and he'll end his turn not doing much more than that. On Jean's next turn, he sets a monster and activates the face down Superficial Piece. This turn, none of his monsters can be destroyed by battle, and if any of his monsters deal direct damage, he gets to destroy a spell or trap on Devack's field. And since the Earthbound Immortals can't be attacked but don't prevent you from being attacked directly, Jean has a bridge directly to his life points, allowing him to pop the Closed Forest Field spell, which will now take down the Earthbound Immortal since there is no field spell anywhere to be found. Devack has to respond with less than half of his life, and the Tricolor Illusion will activate again, revealing the monster Green Baboon, Defender of the Forest. But since Devack needs 2 cards in his hand to activate the hand destruction, it doesn't matter which card gets sent back to the deck, he cannot play anything this turn either. So Tricolor Illusion is shutting down any and all hopes he has to make a comeback. Jean summons another monster to attack directly, and he gets to finish this duel with the Thunder Unicorn, securing the game. Jean has won the match.